Hey everybody, it's the Black Powder Beginner. Today I'm going to continue the series called Boar Battle. I know, once again, tedious proposition, but hear me out. Hear me out. I have attempted in the last video, if you saw, just do a recap. I attempted to use steel wool on the 54 caliber New Englander boar. I also used lead away cloth, and the results were not what I perceived to be a success. There was a little bit of relief from the fouling, but the fouling is deep and the fouling is old, and I have to kick it up a notch. So today, you'll see me working on the 54 caliber New Englander bore once again, but I'm gonna step it up a notch, be a little bit more aggressive, and we'll see what happens. Well, just stay tuned. Okay, so before I get back to working on the 54 caliber, I have here four rifles. Three of which are Thompson Centers, and one is the CVA. And I featured all of these rifles, but I just wanted you to see something in particular. So this is the 50 caliber New Englander. This, of course, is the 54. This is the 50 caliber CVA Frontier carbine, and this is my Thompson Center White Mountain carbine. And all four of these rifles were bought on Gunbroker. And if you don't know what Gunbroker is, let me just give you a quick tutorial about that. Gunbroker is an auction site that sells black powder firearms, that sells modern firearms, ammunition. It's just a general marketplace for people that love firearms. So if you're an enthusiast like me, you can go on the website, you can place a bid, and if you're the highest bidder, then you can win whatever that you're bidding on. But the one thing about Gunbroker and it's not that I don't like it, it's just the nature of what it is that it's online. So you can't really touch the rifles. You can't see what's going on with them, only as far as the pictures that are posted. Some people do very detailed pictures, other people don't. Some people put 50 pictures of a rifle um, online and on the website for them to sell. Some people put six. So with that being said, and the variation that you have, most of the time you don't get to see what the board looks like. So I have fired all of these. All of these have been fired by me. They have been cleaned by me, but they have not been cleaned extensively to the point where what I'm doing with the 54. But I just want you to see something. And I haven't done this. And what I'm doing is I haven't gone down the bore and looked as extensively as I have with the 54, but here is the 50 caliber New Englander. And I want you to take a good look at that. I don't know if you can get into the camera real good, but that is the 50 caliber New Englander. Now unlike the 54, you can see some rifling at the muzzle. This is the muzzle. You can see some rifling, but you can see some metal. You can see the metal of the bore. Just in spots. It's not a solid sheet of fouling. As a matter of fact, it's a lot better than I thought. And this doesn't deserve what I'm getting ready to do to the 54. This is a little bit better. But as you can see, there is some hard fouling in there, but it's not as bad as the 54 caliber. That one looks like it was never cleaned. This one looks like it was cleaned, but not cleaned very well. So this is not a restoration right here. This would be more of a deep cleaning. Take a little bit of lapping compound down it, maybe some double O steel wool at the muzzle and areas like this here where the fouling is a little bit deeper, but definitely at the muzzle. And that is the 54. Okay? I mean the 50. The 50 caliber New Englander. That is the 50. All right. And that's looking right at the muzzle. Okay, we've seen the 54. This is the CVA. 50 caliber CVA. And basically the same thing, but this CVA, it has some rust. It has a little bit of rust, but the metal is there. You can see the rifling. Like I said, this was a good shooter from the outset. And I believe I may have shown this, but this is what it looks like now. And like I said, I have not, all I've done is shot the rifle and I've cleaned it. Now it deserves a deep cleaning as well, but this is not a restoration project either. It's more like, deep cleaning, lapping compound, some copper. Some copper wool will be good on the 50 caliber New Englander. It would be good here. Take a little bit of copper wool down and we're good. It'll be like new. Now, let's take a look at the 50 caliber White Mountain Carbine. If I can get it down the board, there we go. And once again, not too terribly scary, right? Not a nightmare. A little bit of lead residue, lead fouling, a little bit of rust. But you can see the rifling as you get farther down the bore. It gets a little bit thicker, but it's not. And you see some lead down in there. I think that's lead. And boom, you get down there to the breech, and there's quite a bit of caked up lead fouling in the breech there. But it can be salvaged. Mostly rust, some fouling, still. Once again, another copper wool lapping compound, the JB bore cleaner, um, and it'll be good to go. So let's just see this again in comparison. Now that was both Thompson centers and the CVA showing some signs of rust. Um, Out of these three, the 50 caliber New Englander was, I would say, the worst, but not bad. Now, and here what this is what the 54 looks like. And if you saw my last video, you saw this already. But look at the comparison. Clearly, this rifle, and this is after I have done quite a bit of work. So just imagine what it looked like before I started. It was basically a smooth bore. And it doesn't look as bad as it did, but it's still quite rough. The rifling is not as defined as the other three. There is quite a bit of fouling, and this rifle was not well taken care of on inside the bore. The breech is pretty okay, but the bore itself, you saw this before. The bore itself, not the best. So, with that being said, especially not at the muzzle, which it seems like for muzzle loaders, that's where most of the fouling tends to cake. All four of these have some substantial fouling at the muzzle. So, with that being said, I'm saying that to say I'm doing that to do all of this, to say all of this. The When you're buying something from an auction site, if you don't, and this is, I know that a lot of people that watch my videos are seasoned veterans at this stuff, and I totally understand it. But I'm just saying it just so that I can actually say it. And if I was talking to someone that just started like I just started, it's been almost a year now. We're running up on a year. But if you're gonna buy these muzzle loaders on Gunbroker, be prepared for a restoration project. So I mean, you might get away with it. As far as I mean by get away with it is, you might pick up a rifle and it's been beautifully taken care of. The bore is shiny and clean, and hey, and everything looks good. But 8 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, it's gonna look like one of these in the bore. And for me, these are not safe queens by any means. I shoot these. Basically, the 50 caliber. If you want to talk about serial numbers, this serial number is 03187. It's had to have been made in the 80s compared to the 54, which has a serial number in the 100,000s. 268, 260, yeah, 268 in the 10,000s. In the 10,000s. This one is in the 50 caliber, the New Englander 50 caliber is in the just the thousands. So this one had to have been made in the 80s or so. This one had to have been made. The 54 had to have been made in the mid to late 90s. So we're looking at 30 plus years. The CVA has 100,879.44. So it's in the hundred thousands. And the White Mountain Carbine, quite honestly, it has a serial number of 2929 or 12929. So it's in the 10,000s. So 12,000 serial number. So, like I said, these are old. They're old rifles. So be prepared for the work that needs to be done. So, with all that being said, let's get back to the 54 because it needs the most help. I'll be right back. Okay. So letting, after putting two of the lead away cloth down the bore and also a couple patches soaked in my regular cleaning solution that I use is a combination of bore cleaner and simple green. I let it sit for about 30 minutes. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the steel wool, and this is number 2, medium coarse steel wool. And I'm just going to take a little bit. Actually, I need to cut this. So let's take some scissors. Cut that a little bit. Going to wrap it around a few times around my wire brush. And it doesn't have to be ridiculously tight or anything. It's just going to be good enough so that I can push it down the bore. I'm going to take my 3-in-1 oil and coat this. And I'm just going to make sure that it's well coated because I don't want to damage the bore, the metal of the bore, any more than it already may be. So I'm going to wet that up really good. And you can see when it's really wet because it starts changing. It goes from bright. And you see the difference is a little bit darker color now. And we're going to see what happens. Switch this up. And force it down. Okay. Now it's in, which is the hardest part. I want it to be tight. And it's going to form. And I'm just going to actually kind of scrub it just a little bit. Especially right at the muzzle where it's heavily caked. Kind of turn it a little bit. And I can hear it. Continue to scrub. Then I'm going to take it down the bore. And I'm going to get down at the breech. And the more it goes down, up and down, the easier you don't feel as much resistance. Take it on out. Oh, and that's not what I wanted. Kind of moved up. I moved up the brush. Well, that's okay because we're going to take this off. And essentially, when you get done with this brush is going to be done. And I'm going to do this again. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to do it a few times. So once I get this ran down the bore a few times, I'll come back and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so after taking the number 2 grade steel wool down the bore a few times, first patches, we're going to see what it looks like. What I will show you is these dots here started coming out, and it's oil, but it's oil and something else, dirt, fouling. I don't know, but we're going to see. One straight down, and there you go. And this is actually what it looked like. The patch looked like when I used the 00 steel wool last time. The first patches, that's what they look like. So we're not going to know, or I'm not going to know until what it really looks like until I turn the borescope on and take a look. But I'm not going to do that just yet. I want to kind of take a few patches down just to kind of clean everything up and get a better look. So take these patches down. Oh, and you're not going to be able to, you don't see this, but that's kind of off camera, but let me just show what's coming out of the nipple end. And I don't know if you can, that's what's coming out of the nipple end. So we might be in good shape. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't look like much per se on the patches, but that to me looks like rust. That to me looks like rust. And if that's what it is, which, oops, if that's what it is, then we may have just broken down, we may have just broken through to the actual metal. And if that's the case, then I'm excited, but I'm also nervous because it might not be good. So I'm gonna continue to. Well, I mean, I was always getting that starburst pattern, but that's not necessarily a telltale sign because it's the middle of the barrel, right around in here. The rifling is kind of slightly defined. Well, you saw it. That's just one way down. Not showing much of anything. Take it down a couple more times. Okay. And yeah, I don't know. The jury is still out. So let's take a look. Whew, I'm nervous. Oops. I am nervous. I'm hoping there's more progress than I've seen. And eh, well, not. Eh. I'm really gonna have to scrub this end, the muzzle here. Uh, yeah, it's it's something. It's something. And what I'm afraid of is I keep working. The lands are there. The lands are there. The grooves, not so much. And I'm concerned that if I keep working it, it's I'm just gonna end up, kind of tearing down the lands to the point where the lands and the grooves are the same, and it's just basically a smooth bore. That's why I'm trying to focus more of my attention on not this area so much because I think it kind of is what it is right here, but more the muzzle and more the breech, more down here, especially here, especially in this area, right in this area. Focus more there, and here, well, there, around there, and more here. Let me let you get a little bit better close up look. If I can kind of. Oh yeah, I'm not so much focused on this area per se, but more when it starts to where the rifling starts to fade, right in here. So, and there may not be any more. There may not be any more rifling there. I'm trying to. You can kind of see the rifling on the edge of the muzzle in my other rifles, but with this one, not so much. And maybe clean the hammer off a little bit. Yeah, you can't. There's faint. It's faint. It's very very faint. So I'm going to keep working. Gonna keep working on the bore, and you check back in a little bit. All right, so we're back, and after countless experiments, all results have proved negative. No major removing of the fouling, very little showing of the actual bore itself past the fouling. Um, Quite a few patches you can see here. Quite a bit of steel wool. So the only thing that I can do now is to try what I call the hot box treatment. And that is taking some boiling water, putting it down the bore, letting it sit for a few minutes, and excuse my ice maker. Um, Let it sit for a few minutes, and then go for the let away cloth first, and then immediately after that, go with I have switched back to the double O steel wool instead of the number two, because because at this point I don't want to keep running number two course down this bore and just stripping the metal. Even if I am getting some of the um, fouling out, it's a lot riskier for me to continue with that than to just go back to the double O steel wool, and especially with this boiling water treatment. So, well, while I'm waiting for the water to boil, let me just let me just show you what kind of progress, air quotations, progress there has been. And let me get the bore scope together. And this has been hours. Been working on this for hours. And yeah, there is very little change. You can faintly see some kind of rifling. There's a little bit of the bore showing. I mean, this is the extreme end of the muzzle, but it is. Let's get in there. It's basically the same. After all of this, I mean, there's slightly more definition, but in reality, it's basically the same. So, with that being said, this will be the last thing that I try before I basically call it a wash and and just um, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. And you've seen um, the other rifle borers, and I'm going to shift my focus more to them if I can't get this one. But this is the worst of them all, so I wanted to dedicate more time to it. So this will be the third video that I've dedicated time to, and now this is the last resort, basically. So let me go ahead and do this hot box treatment, and then I'll cut back and show you the result. Stay tuned. Well, I'm back. I have been toiling quite hard at this bore, and you know, I've gotten to the point where I I've gotten a little bit discouraged, but hopefully I've made some progress. Now after the hot box method, I actually did it twice. Ran some boiling water down the bore, um, the let away cloth, and then the steel wool, double O steel wool, and well, let's well, here you go. And yeah, no, doesn't here. Let me let you get in now. Doesn't doesn't seem to be any real change. I mean, there's a little bit, but once again, this is something that, well, I mean, if I had the time, and I do, in reality, I do. It's just how much do I really want it? How much do I really want to continue to pass patch after patch, steel wool after steel wool? I mean, over and over and over again for hours on end, which is what I have been doing just to get this. And this is the end result. It's it is quite discouraging. This is something that after all of this effort, I believe this is as far as it's going to go, minus having something done professionally. I mean, I haven't tried, I'm not going to say that I've tried everything because I'm sure I haven't. I don't know everything. There has been quite a few comments about what I can do. And I mean, like I said, I appreciate every comment because every comment is a new idea for me to try to get this bore in better shape because I really like this rifle. But unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like, and this is right at the most you can see. I mean, it's if you look right there, look at that. it's got to be a quarter of an inch deep as far as the fouling goes. Right at the muzzle, you can actually see where the metal begins and where the fouling ends at the top left of the picture. I'm trying to keep it as steady as possible, but you can see how deep that fouling actually is. And it's pretty deep. It's it's got to be at least a quarter to a third of an inch. So with that being said, I cleaned off the camera just to go back down again, and yeah, no, it's. I mean, I think it's as far as it's gonna go without being professionally restored. But I mean, I will. What I'm gonna do, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm gonna work at it for another few hours. I'm gonna go back. I switched. I switched to the double O steel wool, but I think I'm gonna switch back to the two, the very coarse grade, and I'm gonna with the coarse grade. I'm going to do the hot box treatment again, just one more time with the coarse grade of steel wool, and then we'll see what I do because it looks like that fouling is quite thick. It's quite thick. So it's basically an all or nothing type of scenario. And at this point, I believe that the my best bet, if I want to try to get any more fouling out, is to take it as extreme as possible. I mean, I'm not going to take it up to 3 grade or 4 grade steel wool. I'm not going to go that far because that's just, I might as well just take it to a gunsmith and have them cut a new bore in it if I'm going to do that. So I might as well, this is as far as I'm going to go. I'm going to do the hot box treatment again, and then we'll see what we end up with. Be right back. Okay, so it's been a couple hours. As you can see here, the mountain of patches. Um, number 2 steel wool that I switched to. Steel wool here. And quite honestly, I'm tired. I'm tired. My arm isn't hurting so much from in and out, but I mean it's getting so tedious and repetitive that I have had enough. So this will be the first time that I look down the bore with the the number two, the number 2 steel wool and hot the hot the boiling water treatment. So let me get over here and grab the thing of the majig. Oh, knocking knocking stuff around. And like I said, you're gonna see this for the first time. I'm gonna see this for the first time. So let's just see what we got. You know what? Let me make sure the lens is clean. And yeah, all right, throw that up there. Power this up, and we'll see what we got. Uh, well, well, it's actually a little bit of improvement at the muzzle. You can you can actually see some rifling of some kind. Let's see how it looks even further down. Uh, yeah, it's. I'm not gonna say it's the same, but here you get in there. I'm not gonna say it's the same, but this is. It's a lot better. Now that I'm looking at it, it's a lot better than when we started. So there is progress. There is progress. It's just terribly slow. This bore, I don't think whoever had this, and maybe it's changed hands 2 or 3 times. Who knows? That's the risk you take when you buy off a gun broker, like I was saying before. You don't know the history. There is no history. Um, and basically, whoever was selling it, they didn't have any history either. So basically, their guess is as good as mine, as good as whatever. So, but okay, yeah, but let me sit this down so I can talk with my hands. But the risk that you take is you don't know the history, and it looks like maybe this rifle has changed hands 5 times in its life. 5 times, maybe it's only had one owner, maybe. Whatever the history of it is, whatever the case may be, the fact is still the same. Whoever had this did not clean the rifle. They did not clean it. And maybe when whoever got it from somebody else, it wasn't new. And they didn't clean it. So they were just like, what, skip. I'm just gonna enjoy it, and then whatever happens, happens. But you know what? If you go back to my first video, Boar Battle, and my second video, Boar Battle 2, um, actually, there's been some improvement. When you get down to the breech now, right in here, there's no change. There is absolutely zero change. But here, you're actually starting to be able to see the metal just a little bit. Look at this. You see that there on the right? That's actually the bore. When before it was all solid white. So, and you can see more of the bore. So, with that being said, I'm actually making progress. It's just there's no fast way to do this. I don't believe that there's any fast way to get this done. I mean, quite honestly. I mean, the only fast way I can think of is to go just off the rails and say, you know what? I'm taking it to the coarsest steel wool that I can find. Brillo pad. Coarse, coarse, coarse. Brillo pad style and just take it in there and F it. Whatever happens after that happens. That's basically the, the next step because double O is not going to do anything. Double O steel wool, copper wool, all of that stuff is not going to do anything. This is layers. This is years and years and decades of fouling that is in this bore, and it has not moved. I think this is most the bore has seen any type of air in quite some time, especially down here. You can see the transition. So, with that being said, I mean it is. I have to make a decision. Either I'm going to keep digging and digging and digging at this, or I'm going to say, you know what, this is as far as I'm going to go. And since I'm seeing progress as I move back and forth. Since I'm seeing some kind of progress, I think I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up on this. I'm going to keep going. I mean, I'm not going to continue beating on it this week. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to work on the other rifles that I showed you and get those squared away, and then I'm going to come back to this. But I'm going to have to purchase a few more things. But it looks like we're making some kind of progress. So I will call this a success with the caveat. Even even at the muzzle, there's the faint line. Let me get closer in here so you can see it. There's the faint line of rifling right over there to the right. So very faint line of rifling right here at the muzzle. This is, see, there's the, so yeah, there is. So with that being said, I'll probably make another video once I've worked on it a little bit more, just to show you whatever type of progress that I've made in the future. But for now, there's other things to do. So I'm the Black Powder Beginner. Thanks for tuning in.